Greetings gamers and welcome to day 2 of Game Free January. So I haven't played any electronic games since about 30 minutes before the New Year's Eve celebrations. Despite being more than 24 hours without having played any video game, I still don't feel any different. I spent most of January 1st making the video explaining why I'm giving up gaming for the month, and so I didn't even notice that I wasn't gaming. It's now January 2nd and so far I'm experiencing nothing that could be interpreted as any kind of withdrawal symptoms. I'm not thinking about the games I want to play, I'm not experiencing any headaches or nausea or hallucinations, and to be honest I don't know when or even if these things are supposed to kick in. Of course, if I'm not addicted, as I believe, then there won't be any withdrawal symptoms at all. It's probably way too early to tell if I'm addicted or not. However, I have been on the internet and I have been looking at what the withdrawal symptoms are supposed to be, and a short website search or a short internet search brought up the website Hooked on Gaming, and there are a number of symptoms that I might find myself exposed to in the future, and these can include anger and verbal abuse, feelings of emptiness, depression or relief, disruption of sleep pattern, fantasies and dreams about the game, the urge to go back to gaming and try to control the time played, obsessing about the game for long periods of time, rampant uncontrolled mood swings, excessive crying, fear, irritability or restlessness, sadness, loneliness or boredom, inability to find new activities or interests, lack of motivation or direction, excessive amount of time spent sleeping, difficulty facing obligations, procrastination by using video games, feeling as though returning to gaming will solve problems, physical symptoms such as nausea, allergies, colds, hemorrhoids, dry eyes, urinary incontinence and constipation, restlessness, unfulfilling and taunting dreams. And I know it's very tempting for me to smirk at some of those, but these are serious side effects. In fact, in the most extreme circumstances, where a person has been really addicted to gaming and had that gaming suddenly withdrawn, there's reports of them committing suicide. So these are serious issues that should not be downplayed and should not be made light of. But actually, to be honest, it's sort of intimidating looking at that list, because these are things that I might end up feeling. But as of now, January the 2nd, around midday, I'm not feeling any of those things. I'm not feeling any desires to be verbally abusive. I'm not feeling empty or depressed. I'm not having fantasies about the game. I'm certainly not obsessing about the game. So, all in all, things are looking up for me. In terms of my relationships with other people, so far nothing has changed substantially, although I did sense a little irritation in my wife's voice a couple of days before this self-imposed ban on video games. This is because we used to game together and do things together as a gaming family, which means my family will have to make adjustments because of my decision. It's important to remember that the decisions we make don't just affect ourselves, it affects those around us too. My wonderful family, though, are always extremely supportive, so I'm sure I'll be able to see this experiment through to the end. However, this brings us to an important aspect of addiction, which is peer pressure. Typically, addiction is seen as a force that separates families and breaks up relationships. But addiction is also the glue that binds other relationships together. In fact, peer pressure is one of the most difficult to overcome obstacles between an addict and freedom. Humans are social animals and tend to form social groups. Addicts tend to form close relationships to other addicts, and one of the more difficult challenges for an addict is to lose certain friendships to form new friendships. Drug addicts need their suppliers and need to trust those suppliers. Nobody would deliberately introduce an unknown chemical into their body unless they trusted the person supplying it, whether or not that supplier proves to be trustworthy. Many drugs that are considered gateway drugs tend to be consumed as a social activity where drug users experience the effects together. The image of the lonely heroin addict dying under a railway bridge with a needle in his or her arm is the very end of a long journey that usually begins with a friend offering a relatively mild stimulant, depressant or hallucinogen at a social gathering in order to enhance a pleasurable experience. Alcoholics don't technically need their bartender, as they can get their alcohol from just about any source, but they generally get exposed to alcohol by their friends or colleagues or sometimes a family member. Their drinking buddies tend to provide the peer pressure that makes it more difficult to quit. Many children take up smoking to look cool in order to fit into a peer group. There is a whole smoking culture where you are looked upon differently depending on what brand of cigarettes you smoke, or if you smoke cigars or pipes or chew tobacco. While it is sometimes true that a smoking colleague will go off for a fag break on his or her own, it is more common to see several smokers going on a fag break together, chatting and strengthening social ties over a cigarette. In the same way, gaming, especially online gaming, is a community-based experience. Online gamers aren't generally the stereotypical 40-year-old lonely male virgins living in their mom's basement. They are a vibrant and diverse community made up of representatives from all walks of life and all cultures and age groups. Even offline gamers form communities and share their gaming experiences with each other, either verbally, in real life, or increasingly these days over the internet in the form of live streaming or YouTubing their experiences. Regardless of the addiction, one of the major changes an addict must undergo in order to transition from addict to clean is to change his or her relationships, to abandon the relationships that keep him or her in the addiction and form new relationships that will help him or her to stay clean. This is why there are so many support groups for addicts, and why addicts who join support groups tend to be far more successful in overcoming their addiction than those who try to give up on their own. And that about wraps it up for today's video. If you game a lot and you're worried about whether or not you might be addicted, why not follow along, or better yet, try out this simple test of going game free for a month. Remember, it can be any month and you don't have to start on the 1st. Why not post a comment and let me know how you're doing, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But as for me, big fat hairy 24 plus hours and counting non-gamer, I'll look forward to seeing you in another video.